All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the We the Locals podcast. My name is Josie.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Stuart.
All right. And we have with us tonight Commissioner Turkin.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Welcome to We the Locals.
Good to be here.
All right. All right. So if you could take a minute to please like, share, and subscribe this episode as well as our channel. We would really appreciate it, getting the word out there, telling all of your friends, neighbors, enemies, as well as people in your precinct that we exist, and hope that we can help you reach your people with some information about all things local. So if you are interested in getting your name out there, if you are a candidate running for office, or you have a business that you'd like to be promoted through our podcast, we are currently taking sponsorships. You can reach us through our website for information about that. As well as if you just like to donate to the podcast, you can do that and keep our pretty lights on. And you can do that also through our website, or drop us a Rumble rant or a super chat so we can hear from you, which is our favorite way of getting those dollars. Just an announcement. We were asked to announce that we're going to be having this year again in June 14th is the Red, White, and Blue Barbecue. It's always a fun time for candidates and party members and whoever. Will grab your friends, neighbors. Saturday, June 14th, it's Flag Day, also President Trump's birthday. Right? Isn't that his birthday on the 14th? Flag Day. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm right. Okay. As I was saying that, I was like, wait, that's right, right? Yes, it is right. It's a Saturday, and it will be from 12 to 4 at South County Civic Center. I believe tickets are usually $10. It doesn't say on here. Kids 10 and under are free, and you can go to pbcclubs.gop. It is brought forward, is sponsored by the Council of Republican Club Presidents.
Food is included, and it is more than that, Josie. I
think
it's going to be
it 15?
Like, no, I think it's actually going to be, I think it was like 35 last year.
Oh, was it?
I
don't remember.
Year. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can check the website. Inflation,
right?
Dang, it's still biting us in the butt. Or you can, and if you are a candidate and you'd like to be there, you can contact Linda Johnson. If you need her number, please let us know. So that's pbcclubs.gop. All right. What other announcements do we have?
It doesn't look like we're live on YouTube.
Always.
So
not always. Sometimes that happens.
Sometimes. I'm not sure what's
Should I keep going?
But yeah.
It's on here, so.
Is it?
Yeah,
Because
it's both live on there.
I'm not live online or Rumble.
We're not live.
That's funny. How come I'm on live here?
He's live.
He's live.
Right.
He's live.
It's
alive. Oh,
it's not showing on my end, so that's weird. But okay.
Also,
there it goes. It just clicked in.
Boom. There we are.
There we are.
Must have been an additional delay today.
YouTube's trying to get us because we're such big fish.
We're good on Rumble. I'm still waiting on YouTube, so we'll see.
All right. Well, at least we're there on Rumble. Also, just happy Passover to all those who celebrate. I hope that you're having a wonderful matzah holiday. Lots and lots of matzah. My kids, they love it, and they're like, okay, so can we have this? I'm like, no. Can we have this? No. What about this? No. What can we have? Meat, matzah, fruit, matzah. That's it. Oh my gosh. So
17 different ways how to eat matzah?
I am very creative, and I make lots of yummy things.
Sounds like a cookbook. 13 ways how to eat matzah.
That's a really good idea, actually.
I bet there's not one.
There probably isn't one. Boom.
There you go.
There we go.
There you
That's
go.
our $1 million idea.
There's
Yeah.
our $1 million idea. I
Get
like
it done. Get it done.
Okay, publishing. I'm actually working on some publishing stuff for another job that I do. So we'll delving into the world of publishing. Maybe I'll look into that.
I mean, with like AI, you could like just type
just type in.
get a
I need
cookbook
13
in like 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
13 recipes on how to use
Yeah.
matzah for a kosher kitchen.
Oh my God.
Boom, it'll be done. Oh my gosh. All right. So while you're busy, you're doing that, I'll start chatting with Commissioner Turkin. Okay. So Commissioner, tell us who you are. Commissioner Turkin is from Boynton Beach, and we usually just kind of have a conversation. So are you from Florida? Are you originally from Florida? How'd you get it What'd you
No,
do? What's your life? Tell me all the things.
Sure. Yeah. I think I've been here for longer than 10 years, so I think that's like the threshold to
I
be
don't
like a
know.
Floridian.
On Twitter,
right?
people are or on X, on our Instagram, people are psycho. They're like, if you were not born here, you were not a Floridian. I'm like, I've been here since I was 5. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Oh.
I learned how to drive here. I'm a Florida. Like,
Oh
I'm
man,
a
if
Florida
you learn how to
driver.
drive here, then you can drive anywhere in the world.
Absolutely,
You know what I
except for
mean?
winter. I don't do winter driving. I don't drive in the snow.
Oh yeah. Well,
No.
you don't got to worry about that here.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if we travel, I don't drive in the snow.
No.
No.
Uber.
My husband, he's from the Midwest.
Yeah,
he
he
drives
drives.
in the snow.
Oh, he's
I
used
just,
to it.
I'm just a passenger princess. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
No.
Okay,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Originally from Georgia. Moved down here in like 2012.
What brought you here?
The ocean.
The ocean.
Yeah, I went to school at Ole Miss, and I didn't want to go back to Georgia.
My mom's from Mississippi.
What part?
She's from Greenwood.
I have no idea where that is.
It's in the Delta.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
she's south.
Yeah, so she's
So
south.
Oxford's up north,
Mhm.
you know, basically Tennessee, an
Mhm.
hour from Memphis, essentially. And so I moved down here and wanted to be by the ocean. I'm a big fisherman. You know, got into the animal health industry, started growing the corporate ladder in that. Dabbled in real estate, still have my real estate license. If you need to buy or sell, just let me know. Good deal. We won't wreck you on the commission. Just let me know. I'm going to throw that plug in there.
I like it.
I donated before, so I can throw that plug in there.
Yes, we'll take it.
And also in the military, active duty, but you know, reservist on active duty orders. And
What do you do, or what did you do in the military?
so my rate is BU, which is a builder combat engineer. It's like the part of the Seabees, which is a construction battalion.
My
And
uncle
then-
was a CB.
Okay, so there you go. So
He was a
if you
Master
know-
Chief.
Yeah. Okay. So he's up there. So the CBs were essentially in World War II. The United States had a bunch of contractors overseas. They were getting killed, and so they're like, hey, we need to figure something out.
Mhm.
And so they essentially the first group of CBs were contractors, you know, tradesmen, and you know they taught them weapons training and then sent them over, and that was the birth of the CBs essentially.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of history. I mean,
Yeah.
we could spend a whole episode on that.
I'm sure.
And so that's my primary rate with the Navy, and you know what I do now is none of that. So and then I'm also a commissioner in Boynton Beach, as you know. That's how we all know each
That's how
other.
we got
right, through the
here.
political scene, and you know that I never in my life thought I would ever get into politics. I was one of those people. I hated politics. Right. I remember when what was that guy's name? Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney ran against Obama and Paul Ryan, right?
Romney Ryan.
Romney Ryan.
I'm embarrassed to say we had a bumper sticker on the back of our car, Romney Ryan, for a really long time, and we never put another bumper sticker on the back of our car. 'Cause
And-
it took forever to get it off.
And I remember when Obama was running the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in high school, and in
Okay.
08, and
How old are you?
33.
Okay, we were talking about that earlier. We were like, I think he's younger. He's definitely younger than me, but we weren't sure how much. Okay, so yeah, high school. Yeah, that would make sense.
And I remember like at the time, I'm like, this is super cool. We're gonna see a first black president. This was
Right.
very like monumental, you know, election. You know, and then his policies just completely wrecked
Ruined
the social
everything
fabric.
of this
right? And,
entire
like,
country.
Yeah, like my parents are Republicans. You know, grew up in a Republican household. Never liked politics. You know, I just
Were your
was-
parents into politics, or was it more just like casual, like you're Republicans?
My parents are from Eastern Europe, so my dad grew up in the Soviet Union.
Okay.
So like he knows firsthand what like socialist and communist policies look like, and how and why they don't work. Right. Same with mom, and so they immigrated here.
Did they immigrate together? Like they met
Yeah.
there and then came over together? When did
Yeah.
they come over?
They came over in the late '80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So they escaped. Like they got out.
late
Oh, I guess late 80s. Okay.
Yeah. So my dad used to be the director of the Moscow Circus.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're a carny?
What's that?
So you're a carny.
I'm a carny.
I
I'm a
love
carny.
it. One of
And
my best
so-
friends is a carny.
And so, yeah, I remember like coming home after school, right? And like I'd hang out with like a chimpanzee. You know what I mean?
awesome.
Like it was my
Yeah.
friend. And so, anyway, so he was. Long story short, he immigrated here. Well, actually, he was on tour here, right? And they were funded by. They had like some investors from the Middle East. This is during the Gulf War, ish that era, and the funding got pulled, and so they pulled the funding for this tour. They ended up getting, I don't want to say stuck here, but they suck asylum. And, you know, I think my mom realized, like, hey, America's the land of opportunity.
Let's
Like,
stay.
let's stay, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're about to have kids, whatever. And so they stayed. I was born. Anyway, so they've always, like, you know, I always knew, like, this whole socialist bloc, that's all BS, right?
Right.
Like, everyone getting paid the same amount, right? That doesn't work. That works in, like, a commune in, like, the northern hills of California or
Right.
something, you know, where people don't shower. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
like, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that might work. You might have one doctor. You might have a dentist. You
And
might
that's
have,
part of
like,
what they contribute to the
yeah,
commune,
they
but that's not
contribute,
going to
that's
work
fine.
as far
it's
as
not
like
gonna
a
work
whole.
in a huge society. You
Right.
know what I mean? And then also is when you give the government so much, they're never going to stop taking.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
control. Everything's about control. And so, you know, I was always brought up, you know, conservative, Republican, you know. And so, anyways, so, you know, never got involved. 2015, I just remember watching, like, the debates,
Mhm.
you know, and I'm like, what? Donald Trump's running for office?
What's happening?
Yeah, and I remember my roommate at the time, you know, he had it on, right? And he, you know, he's a good old boy.
Uh-huh.
And so he thought it was amazing. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, this guy from TV? You know what I mean? And, like, growing up, like, you know, our
yeah.
age, you would always hear Donald Trump and, like, he
The
and-
Apprentice.
and
I
the
watched
cult-
The Apprentice. I
and The
loved it.
Apprentice, all the rappers rapped about him. Like, he's a cultural icon.
Yeah, he's
you know
a
what
pop
I mean?
culture icon. Exactly.
He's a pop culture icon.
Exactly.
Whether you hate him or love him, he's a pop culture icon. Like, you know about
He was in
Donald
Home
Trump.
Alone.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
Right?
Home Alone. Who doesn't like Home Alone?
Did you see that they're thinking about pulling him out of there?
I've heard that rumor for a while. I don't think they will.
No, no way.
No way.
No way.
I think that would lose, like, it would. I don't think they will. I've heard the
Yeah.
rumor, but I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either. Well, I mean,
I
wouldn't
think they
surprise
would
me.
like to try, but I don't think they'll actually do it. I don't know. So, okay, so you're watching the
So,
debate and you're like, Donald Trump,
I'm like,
what?
no way. And I'm watching him and, like, guy's not a politician. We all know that,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, this guy, you know, this guy means business. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And, like, he's just calling everybody out. And I'm like, this is great. Like, this is funny. He's an entertainer.
He's
right?
an entertainer.
He's an
yes.
entertainer. He knows how to brand himself. He's a salesman.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he is a salesman. And so the guy, you know, just stuck out from the rest of the candidates. I liked Ben Carson originally,
Oh.
right? I was a big Ben
My
Carson
husband
guy.
really liked Ben.
Yeah, he's
Carson.
very modest. You know what I mean? I don't think he's got the charisma
Mhm.
to ever hold an elected office at that level. But, you know, he's, you know, good policies, you know, crazy upbringing, like,
Mhm.
you know, kind of like an underdog story. And, you know, you always want to root for the underdog. I do, at least. And so that was kind of my, you know, and he wasn't like a political guy. You know, he wasn't a Marco Rubio, or I think Ted Cruz was in it at that point in time.
I voted for
Jeb-
Marco Rubio.
Jeb Bush. Right. You know, Rubio, I met Mark. He's not a bad guy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
He's nice.
And, but he's a politician. And I think what Trump did is he changed the game of politics,
Mhm.
because historically you typically have these politicians, you know, that run for the executive branch. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You don't have these outsiders. Like Abe Lincoln was an outsider.
Mhm.
Ronald Reagan was an outsider. I mean, he had a little bit of a political background. You know, in
Governor, but
California,
he
yeah.
quickly went from that. He leapfrogged from that
He
to
leapfrogged, you know what I mean? But before governor, what was he? He was a union
He was
president.
an actor.
He
yeah.
was an actor. He was the president of, like, the actors union or something
Mhm.
like that. And you know, that's a whole nother story. Reagan's
Yeah,
story. That's
Reagan.
crazy. But so anyway, so I that's when I got involved, was when Trump ran the first time, and that's when I was like, all right, you know, like,
This could be fun.
you got me sold, like, in a vision and dream, because
Yeah.
I mean, what Obama did was just,
Destroy everything.
yeah, I mean, the social fabric. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? He brought in, what he did was divided the country, in my belief. I think he radicalized racism.
Mhm.
He radicalized like, social justice issues.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? He doubled down on he did a lot of things that he advertised that created a divide in the
Mhm.
United States. Like, I grew up, like, we didn't see this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you grew up in Georgia.
I grew up in Georgia, right? Everyone thought my parents were communists and mafia mobsters, right? So like, the good old boys, like, you know, I hung out with everybody,
Right.
But most of my friends I grew up with were Hispanic, were African American, and you know, we would josh around, we would call everything, you know, I mean, we'd have fun, you know, and it was never like you're racist, you're better than me, you know. It was
There was no privilege.
there was no that I don't even know where that came from. You know what I mean? Like, sign me up for that. Where's that?
Right?
I've been working hard. I got grays in my beard. You know what I mean? And yeah, so when I saw that, you know, I think the pendulum swung, right? And then you had everything with Benghazi. Like, a lot of people got pissed off. And you know, I think regardless, like, what you think about Bill Clinton and everything he did, I think he's still more liked than Hillary was when they ran. And, you know, Bill Clinton's policies were a lot better than Obama's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you look at what they did, I think Bill Clinton was the last moderate Democrat to hold office as a president.
Yeah.
Because you can't call Obama a moderate.
No.
You can't, maybe on some policy issues, maybe you could.
No.
The border, he was a lot stricter than Joe Biden.
He was a lot stricter
what I
than
mean?
Joe Biden. I know there's a lot of statements that are attributed that if you read them to people, they'll be like, oh, Trump said that. And it was like, no, it was Obama. But I don't think he actually meant them. I think he just said things. And I don't think he
he's a
actually
typical
meant any of
politician.
it.
He's going to tell you one thing and then
He's
switch.
talking, he's lying.
Yeah, you know.
That was very similar to, it seemed like, your opponent this last election, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That kid. Oh my god. I actually saw him the other day.
Oh, yeah? Did he run and hide?
Did he say
No, I
congratulations?
left. No, he didn't. He still hasn't conceded.
He still hasn't
He still hasn't
conceded?
conceded. No. Still hasn't conceded. Second time. I don't know. It's like my last opponent for him.
Also didn't
She didn't
concede.
concede. You know, I guess it's a thing.
It's a
Don't
thing.
concede.
People, no.
Well, you're in the seat, so it doesn't really matter,
it
right?
doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
All right, so you started getting involved, and then how did that, like, how involved did you get? How did that impact your life? And then what made you, fast forward to the, not fast forward, but like, what made the decision for you to be like, okay, I'm gonna put my name out there?
I think the big thing, and I think we saw this all throughout the county, was a rubber band from COVID, right? Like, when COVID happened, everything, right? You know, and I was in boot camp. I was in CB training. I was going through the military while COVID was first starting.
Oh, wow.
And then I came home, and it was like all in. And that's when they were doing I remember driving from Mississippi to to Florida, and the roads were like empty on like a Tuesday. There was no one outside. It's like zombie apocalypse. I'm like, what's going on here? You know, I'm like driving my truck. I got the back seat filled up with toilet paper because I knew there wasn't going to be any. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Filled that up, and so
Half toilet paper will travel.
gas was $1.32 a gallon. You know, I remember driving like $1.32. I haven't seen those prices since like
I was
in 2004.
I know.
You know what I mean?
That was crazy.
Yep.
And so anyway, so the just everything, like the kids, what they try to do with the kids, the masks, everything. The government they did not care. I mean, we can sit here and go on and on about all the wrong things. You know,
we've
what I
done
mean?
it. Yeah.
The
Oh yeah.
silencing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just all in your face. Did not care. Hey, we're gonna do it. We don't care. You know what I mean? It's like shooting somebody in daylight. You know, and just smiling after you do it. It was insane what the government was doing.
It was insane. What they did.
Insane. The world lost its mind.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer. The world lost its mind, and I'm like, I can't sit by and just watch this happen. Like, this is crazy, you know. And so I and I would always go to the commission meetings and CRA meetings because I live in the downtown ish, right across the street, and I want to see. You know, when I bought that house in Boynton, I lived on Ocean, and I bought a house a couple streets down. I was like, you know, we're by the beach, we're super close. Like, there's no reason this place shouldn't be impoverished. Like, this place should be rich. You know what I mean? It should be an affluent area. You know, we're 1 mile from the beach, closest to the Gulf Stream, some of the best fishing and diving in the world. Like, you know, this city needs to grow. And so I'd always get involved in meetings, and I just watch what happens. You know, I'd watch people go up, you know, share their concerns, and like no one gets
Thank
hurt.
you for your comment. That's all they say.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for your comment.
If that, and like sometimes you do that, right? Because not everyone who goes up and gives public comment, you know, is giving an accurate statement, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and you always got, you know, the people that the regulars.
You're regulars.
Your regulars.
I like it. You're so nice.
Yeah, you got your regulars, and So,
Mhm.
you know, but sometimes the regulars are right and sometimes they're not right. And so anyway, I go up there and I watch, and I just didn't. I like to make decisions. You know what I mean? I like to make decisions, go, move forward. You got to be able to make decisions. You know, obviously you want to make educated decisions, fact-based decisions, but you know, playing ping pong all the time on the dais and not making decisions,
Not doing anything.
not doing anything is why people hate government. It's why they don't trust government
Mhm.
because nothing gets done. And there's like no follow up, right? So like my biggest thing coming from a corporate background, you know, that I've tried to push, and I think we've done a great job with the city manager and our city executive staff, is introduce like a customer service oriented approach, right? Like the taxpayers are customer, and they're going to be right, you know, even if they don't understand, right, what goes on behind closed doors, you know, and how the city operates. And a lot of people don't know. I didn't know. Like government operates so much slower because there's so much red tape. There's so much regulation, right? And there's only so much you can do.
Right.
And, you know, the more layers, the more complicated it is. And so I think that's the biggest thing, you know, for me as far as changing the stigma of government and how slow it moves and how stupid it is. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, it is what it is. So anyways, backtrack a little bit. I hated that, and I was like, I bet I can do better than these people, right? I'm not gonna say any names, but and I'm sitting there with my buddy, and you know, we're like, there's nothing going on downtown, and like these people can't make decisions, and so I'm like, I bet you I could do better, and he's like, no, you can't. I was like, $20.
$20 I can do better.
Swear to God, that's how this whole thing started. And so my biggest thing coming from the animal health field was, like, we don't have any dog parks in the east side. Like, why do we have all these people, all this development coming
You
by?
do now.
We have a dog park now. That's right. I ran on that and we got it done.
And it's beautiful.
It is, yeah.
It's great.
It's a
Great
beautiful
one.
dog park.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
right.
Where
on
is
the-
it?
It's off Federal Highway. It's called JC Park.
Okay.
So it's got
It's right
It's
on the
got-
intercoastal.
right on the
You can walk to
intercoastal, yeah.
intercoastal too.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's something to do for everyone there.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you can, for all ages. You have bocce ball for the seniors. You have the playground, which we're renovating, we're redoing. So if you're upset because it's closed, we are renovating.
I'm
it.
sure if it's as good as the one by in downtown, it's gonna be great. My kids love those playgrounds.
Yeah, playground's awesome.
Like playgrounds are amazing there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And,
And
I live in
then,
Boca. We
yeah.
have some amazing playgrounds, and I love your playground.
Yeah,
So
we want nice stuff.
Yeah.
you know, Boca does a lot of stuff great. You guys have a huge commercial tax base, which is helpful, which is why your millage rate's so low. You know what I mean?
our millage rate's not that low.
What is it, like under 4%?
Yes, but you forget
They quote it as
they
the
quote it
lowest.
as the lowest, and it is if you go by what our city taxes are. But we also have a separate taxing district of our beaches and parks. So when you take
right.
those two and put them together, it's the same. So our millage rate is the same as Delray, and it's the same as Boynton. It might be slightly lower. I
Right.
think it's like 7.4.
You guys have the
like that.
Red Reef District, or
We have the beaches and parks.
Is
So it's
that-
the greater beaches
Yeah.
and parks district. It's its own taxing district with its own elected
Really?
body.
Oh, okay.
So we have
Interesting.
commissioners that sit on the beaches and parks district
Mhm.
that are elected by the people. And it's not just the city. There's a border that encompasses a few other parts that are outside of outside of incorporated Boca that are part of the greater beaches and parks district. So we have like the Polo Club, which
Yeah.
is up there. That's not in the city of Boca, but they're in the greater beaches and parks
weren't they
district.
trying to do something there?
In the Polo Club?
Yeah, or wasn't there
I don't know.
some?
It's not in the city.
I was reading somewhere they're trying to do something with an old golf course.
Oh,
country
that's
club
that is the Boca Chica golf course, and that's the one. So they're supposed to. So this is a big project that the Beaches and Parks District is supposed to be working on, and I've heard that it's come to a standstill. There's no money. I don't know how they have no money because we pay a lot of money in our millage rate, and I have to buy a beach pass. Jessica knew it was coming because it pisses me off because not only do I pay 3 point whatever % to the millage rate to the beaches and parks, I also have to buy a beach pass in
As
order
a-
to
as a
go to the
resident?
beach. Yes,
Yeah.
as a resident that I already paid for. Okay. Everyone knows it's like a thing that makes me rageful. But it's Boca Chica, which is off of not Federal,
No, it's
2nd Avenue.
Is that where it is?
Yes. It's off because I used to live there. So 2nd Avenue, if you go north of Yamato, there's like
Oh, yeah. That
series
that
of
whole-
condos.
Also, now they're thinking about doing that one now?
They're supposed to be. I've seen the plans, but nothing's moved forward yet
'Cause-
because there was an old golf course there, and
Right.
they were going to build condos, and then they were going to do this, and they were going to do that, this, that, and the other thing. And the latest was supposed to be a beautiful park with like a practice pool and
But
10,000 miles of yards of, I don't know, walking and biking trails.
now
and
the
stuff.
Boca Raton public golf course used to be on the other side of the turnpike.
Yep.
Now that's the one that's
It-
across the
across
Bath
from
and-
Costco.
Right, the Bath
Yes.
and Tennis Club, right?
No, that's not. That's something like that. Anyway, but yes, so that's how Boca. So Boca does have a low millage rate,
Mhm.
but it's deceptive. Anyway, so Boynton. Back to Boynton though.
So, where was I?
No dog parks.
That's right. That's right. So no dog parks.
Nothing to do.
And so we go over to Hurricane Alley, which is like a staple
Mhm.
in Boynton, if you guys know.
Yep.
And I'm like talking to everyone there. I'm like, hey, would you guys vote for me if like was to bring dog parks over here? Like we kind of need dog parks. And mind you, like I have no
No political experience. Never run
background
anything. Never been on
experience.
worked on a campaign. No nothing.
Nothing. Never worked on a campaign. Actually, no. I helped my buddy Chris. Chris Just, he's an Air Force guy. He's from Wellington. Brian something. He ran against Tina Polsky, I think, a while ago.
Oh.
Brian,
I know who you're talking
You know what I'm
about.
talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
He
I can
owns,
picture.
like, he's a business guy.
And his wife is like a doctor.
yes,
Yes.
his wife's a doctor.
I can't remember his name. Brian.
Nelson
No, it wasn't Nelson. But it'll come to me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see if it's in my phone.
I help. I was like, yeah, I'll help this guy out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
How can I help? How can I support the cause? So like I did that. I did that for a weekend, and like door knock. You want me to do what? You want me to go knock on doors? I'm like, what? No. What? Okay, fine. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
did that for a weekend. Actually, one day.
Norton.
Brian Norton.
Brian Norton.
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very nice guy. I remember going up to his headquarters up in like Wellington or something,
Mhm.
and yeah. So that was the only little taste of politics.
So
I
over
got.
beers and great lobster bisque soup, you're saying can you support me for commissioner?
Yeah,
in Boynton?
essentially.
People were like, yes.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. I remember one of my buddies was like, send me the ballot. You know what I mean? Hand me the ballot. And I'm like, roger that. And so the next day I went to City Hall. I'm like, I don't know about filing deadlines. I don't know about any of this
You
stuff.
didn't like Google
No,
anything.
I just waddle into City Hall and I'm like, hey, I want to run for commissioner.
Sounds like me.
Actually,
My same
let me
story.
backtrack. Actually, before I waltzed in, I emailed Justin Katz, who was a commissioner at the time.
Okay, I know who that is.
And,
He's the
and-
guy head over the school.
He's the CTA president.
Yes, thank you.
And then I emailed Christina Romulus, who sat in the seat prior.
Mhm.
Never heard back from her. Justin Katz was like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out, and I appreciate your willingness to serve." Blah 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 blah. But there's already some front runners in the race, and I'm like, "What do you mean there's some front runners in the race? Like, there's no you don't pick the front run, you don't pick the candidates, right?" Which now I've come to realize that's how Palm County operates, right?
Especially Boynton.
Especially Boynton. 100%.
Boynton is like
100%.
Boynton is like the poster child
have
for
a
that
system.
kind of stuff.
They have a system.
Yes, they do.
And so,
And here you come.
oh my God, I think in like 20 years the unions could their candidate always won,
Wow.
always won, and so
For city commission, you would think like that's crazy.
it was
Okay.
insane.
That's nuts. Okay.
So yeah, they tell me, and the best way to get me to do something is like tell me I can't do it, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. You're not helping. Waltz into City Hall, get my big packet book. I want to run. They're like, you need these signatures, and I was like, I went like the day before. Right, so it was like a real
totally
godsend.
sounds like my
It was-
story.
yeah,
Oh, my
100%
gosh.
day
It's
before,
so funny.
And then so I get the stuff. They're like, you need signatures. You have this long to do it. I'm like, all right, I get the signatures.
How many signatures did you need?
It's only 25.
Oh.
We're actually in the process of
So
changing
you just
that.
went over to Hurricane Alley again.
You're like, here, everyone sign.
Right. Yeah, I hit up everyone I knew, and then I wanted to get more than 25, obviously,
Right.
because you never know.
You got to go in with
You
that,
might-
like, boom, these are my signatures.
Yeah, and it's like you might lose one.
Yep.
Or, when they take them from you, put them upstairs. You never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So you want to eliminate that margin of error. And
Smart.
yeah, I remember like knocking on doors, like in scrubs, right? So I used to manage animal clinics, and before work, getting these signatures, and people were like, "Yeah, you know what I mean?" I'm like, hey, this stuff's crazy. Like, we need speed bumps. You know what I mean? Like, I would just like look at what's
You were
wrong.
identifying issues.
Yeah, it was.
And saying this is how we can fix them, and
Yeah.
I'll fix them for you.
Exactly. And like our neighborhood, like fought for speed bumps for like 6-7 years, and they did this traffic calming stuff where they blocked off some of the roads and try to redirect traffic, like an engineer's dream. Which I get it. You know, I'm not an engineer, but I understand their perspective. It's not always relatable or like realistic when you look at subjective solutions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone's speeding, like don't reroute the whole neighborhood. You know what
Put
I
a
mean?
speed bump.
Put a speed bump in. You know what I mean? Or,
It's a road course.
yeah, right. I mean, like practical solutions. You know.
Speed bump.
And so we got the signatures. You know, whatever. And then I start. Then I talked to my buddy Chris Just from Ryan Norton's campaign, and he puts me in touch with someone in the Republican Party, and that was not Mary Ellen, Mary Ann. She used to be a candidate recruiter years ago.
Oh.
Mary, maybe?
No, it can,
She's from Wellington.
gray hair, long gray hair,
Yeah.
thin. I can picture her.
Yes.
We're
I
not
can
doing well with
definitely-
names
I
tonight,
can
are we?
definitely picture her.
Very
Oh,
nice
she's
lady.
Very
Okay.
sweet.
So
very
they put you in
sweet.
touch with
Put
her.
me in touch with her. They were like, hey, what, you want to run for mayor? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, we need a good mayor candidate. We have one, but we're not sure about her. It was Cindy Falco was running for mayor. And it was Cindy
Oh.
Falco, it was Ty,
That's
it was
interesting.
Bishop, Bernard Wright, and then you had Golene Gordon all in that mayor's race. And I was like, I'm flattered, but like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like let me focus on baby steps. You know what I mean?
You're like, let's just take one
Yeah,
small
like-
step for man.
And I'm like, we're past the filing deadline. Like,
yeah.
you know,
You're like, I'm already doing this.
yeah, and so then it just got crazy. So when I was getting the signatures, I would meet people. They'd put me in touch with someone, and it just created this huge snowball effect. And like everyone was pissed off because of COVID.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yep.
So like
Yeah.
it wasn't about your roads being paved. It wasn't about.
They were just like, we want change.
They were like, we want change, and we don't like this stuff in the schools with the kids.
Was this in 22?
22. Yeah.
Because it was the
Yeah,
year after
same
my
year.
race. Yeah.
21 into 22, and you know, I was just like knocking on doors. You know, I reached out to the funny story. Actually, it was the president of the union for the police, PBA, was Dan Duggar at the time.
Really?
And so I emailed. I still joke with him.
I didn't know that.
I emailed him like, "Hey, I'm a military guy. Blah blah blah. I'm like pro police. It's sad what's going on right now with this defund the police thing. You know, wrote this nice email and like." I didn't know you're not supposed to email the union president's city email about politics. Like, it, you know what I mean? So it was, I didn't know that, right? I'm just
Right.
like,
You're just like, I'm
blah,
going to do
blah,
this.
blah. Yeah. So then like I go to the tackle shop and I'm talking to the guys, and one of the guys in there was like, "Hey, did you talk to Dan Duggar?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I emailed him. He never emailed me back." You know what I mean? And so, anyways, I still haven't gotten an email back from him. 6 years later.
Come on,
so,
Dan.
And so
Get it together.
and so I just knocked on doors. I heard people out, and I just talked to people, and you know, we ran a pretty effective campaign that first time. You know, we were outraised 4-1, 5-1.
I was going to say, how much did you raise and how
like
much
12
did your
grand,
how much did your opponent raise?
a 40 on paper, and like another 30 in a pack. You know what I mean? I didn't even know what a pack was.
Was it an incumbent? I didn't either.
No, it was an open seat.
It was an open seat. I didn't either. I didn't know. I was like, what's a pack? How much
No
money?
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can only take $1,000 from one person at a time. Like, this is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, 12 grand, and I won. I was like, this is crazy. You know, I'm like, we did something right. So I did like a deep dive into what we did and everything, and looking at the demographic. Like, I didn't. My seat's like a D+5 or D+7.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It's pretty blue.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're on the blue wall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
yeah, that's true.
Think about where, like, that area is.
That's
That's
true.
part of the blue
the
wall.
largest precincts that operate in these local elections are red.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So what we did, I think, over the last 3 years, was establish like these strong voting blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So and obviously it's a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
Which I think that's why we won too, the first time and the second time.
Mm-hmm.
is we focused on the issues that impacted the people the most, right?
What?
Imagine
What?
that.
No, that's
it wasn't-
crazy. That's
like-
crazy.
Like, I don't think there's a Republican or a Democratic way to pave a road. Just be
We've been harping on this. That's why we're
Are
acting
you
like
sure?
this. We've been harping on this probably for the last like
don't
3
they
or
do
4
the-
episodes. We're like, issues. Focus on the issues. Republicans are terrible at focusing on the
Yeah.
issues. We focus on party politics, and we should focus on the issues, especially at the local
No one
level.
focuses on the issues. Democrats focus on the poor me,
Yep.
pull on your
Victim.
heartstrings.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then Republicans are just like, right? You know what I mean? Like everything but like, hey, let's make our streets safer. Or, hey, we're overdeveloping.
Hey,
people are sick of traffic.
Yeah,
you know what
people
I mean?
are sick of traffic. And if you don't have a solution, say that you don't have a solution. Don't say you have a solution and then don't have a solution,
Well,
which
I
is an
think-
issue we have in Boca.
I think more and more I mean, if you look at the consistency of races, you know, Commissioner Woodward, you know, you know, Commissioner Turkin, and you know, there's a few like good candidates that have the ability to articulate issues really well with common sense solutions that it doesn't matter where on the political spectrum you are.
Yep.
If you just connect and have that conversation, they're going to vote for you. And I think that proved in Boynton, and that kind of you know, like you know, Commissioner Woodward's district overlaps with you. You know, we have Peggy Gossett Seidman, we have, you know, Mike Caruso just to the north. So, you know, based on demographics and everything that we see in our nice new
Oh
handy
yeah, our
dandy
new handy
binder.
dandy binder.
Thank you to Daniel Zapata for this. Is that
I want one.
I
Where's
told
my
him-
binder?
I want one too.
I want a binder.
I know. I told him, I was like, Josie's gonna be calling you.
I want a binder. I should text him right now and be like, turn the show on because I'm talking to you. I want a binder.
And the more that we can show other candidates that this is how you work your area and this is the way, and then we need to feed off of our elected officials that have gotten elected.
Solution oriented.
Solution
Yeah.
and
Pe-
solutions.
People don't care. I think at the end of the day, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Green Tea Party, whatever party you are,
Green
you-
tea.
yeah, the Green Tea Party, and so, like, people just want results,
They want
Yep.
results,
and they want subjective results. Like, no one cares about the feel good proclamations at the city. Like, 99% of the people are
They
at
don't.
home. They're working 2 jobs. They have their kids.
Yep.
They're running and gunning.
going to sports.
Yeah, going to sports, they're just trying to get by or
Mhm.
just try to enjoy life. The last thing they want to do is be like, oh, let's go see what's going on in our local government. You
Right.
know what I mean? And that's where it impacts you the most.
Mhm.
You know, so I think when it comes to campaign season, like getting out and getting to know people is so crucial.
Yeah.
Face to face. Yeah, mailers are great. You know, there's a lot of people that vote subjectively, face value. You know, I think mailers are awesome, but, you know, that connection,
Going out.
like you were saying, like just being able to have a conversation with someone. I think that's why I won, despite the demographics.
And you had great community leaders that actually put together candidate forums for you guys.
yes,
And that
Yeah.
was huge too, which had great results. Like you know, there was probably 50, 60 plus people in both of the forums that, you know, I
Yeah.
went to.
yeah,
So that was amazing.
and different people and were they
Yeah,
different
different
attendees
groups.
and stuff, different attendees, right?
different attendees, different issues too.
Yeah.
And different
Yeah.
issues.
different
Yeah.
issues. You know,
And
like
that's
there's
a-
a few things that I think your whole community may need and want, but then I think really dialing in and looking at a microscopic level by neighborhood
Mhm.
is how you win, right? Like if I was a county community, like I think Marcy does a good job of that, right? Like she dials in on. She has like what? How many? She has like 20 municipalities in her district or something.
Like, nah, I think
12
not.
maybe. She has
12.
a lot.
13.
So 12 or
13.
13. She's the most of
got
the
a-
commissioners.
She's got the most, right? So she's got to work with all these different cities. You know, what I mean, when you go like Sarah's district, that's like a couple cities. That's it.
Right.
You know, it's big, it's large, but you know, it's not very densely
Right.
populated. You know, but Marcy goes and you know she's able to hone in on each different neighborhood. You know, and I understand what their concerns are, and like it's working too, right? Like
It is.
you just when you're in the seat, like people are gonna know if you're working or not, and it's communication response, right? No different than customer service. You have an issue, hey, let me get a response. 9 out of 10 times, I don't think people are gonna care if you can't solve every single one of their
Right.
problems. But if you communicate and you follow through and be like, hey, here's why we can't, they're human beings are understanding.
Exactly.
You
And
know
that's,
what I mean?
I do. And I want to like bring up something like when we had Brian Stenberg on, and he was like, because we have huge issues with traffic in Boca, just like every other city does. And he's like, there's no solutions. He's like, the city overdeveloped. They didn't plan for the traffic. They can't build bigger roads. There's nowhere to build bigger roads. There's really not a lot we can do. And he was very blunt about it. Well, his opponent took a clip, put that into his mailer, and said, Brian has no solutions. I have solutions. He has never, not once, brought forward a solution. He was on the council for years, did not bring a solution forward.
Who is this?
Andy Thompson, and has not brought forward a solution still. So he went after Brian saying, Brian has no solutions. I have solutions. Guess what?
No solution.
No solutions.
And
in fact, it's worse.
And
it's
now
worse.
he wants to run for mayor.
And now he wants to run for mayor.
On no solutions.
On no solutions. But my point is I think people, like when Brian said that, I was a little like, there's no solutions. He's like, here's the problem. This is what happened. And when he explains why he says that, you're like, as a constituent, I'm like, that makes sense. Now I'm not going, fix the traffic. I'm like, what else can we work on then? What's something else that can actually, that we can fix? He's like, let's focus on the things we can fix.
Right.
And he said, another thing he said was, that he's like, if Boca does not get itself together, they are going to have to raise the millage rate. They're going to have to cut stuff or raise the millage rate at some point. And so they took that and ran with it and said, he wants to raise taxes. And he's like, it's just simple economics. Like, come on. And like, but people appreciate candor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out well for him because Andy was able to spin it. But
yeah, I mean, when you can take that message and just blast it
into
it's
mailers up into Boynton.
You're gonna try, right. It's gonna be hard to walk that back with thousands of people. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. But I think that, to what you're saying, I think that really is, if you're able to get that message in front of people, which it seems like you've been effective at doing in being elected twice, that's key to reaching people, because that seems to me like why you're in government to begin with, is to help and serve the people and not anything else.
Well, I mean, our government was designed to be local neighborhood people designing their government and community of where and how they want to live. And we've gotten so far away from that in a lot of our communities. And thankfully, Palm Beach County is so unique because we are so prosperous here. And then also at the same time, we have these little communities that just get ignored.
Yeah.
And then it's like whoever has the shiny, talking point ends up winning, and our several communities get ignored and the wrong issues get put forth. And it really takes good leadership like you, Commissioner Turkin, to be able to say, like, hey, these are the issues that we need to focus on, and this is what's important to people.
Overdevelopment.
Overdevelopment.
That's the number one thing. Everyone wants to talk about, like my opponent last time, he talked about affordable housing, and I'm like, we're not doing that. And they're like, well, you don't want to diss anyone about affordable. I go, we don't need to bring. So you're telling me that you want me to go to the taxpayer and say, hey, we're going to take your tax dollars and we're going to subsidize a project to bring in more affordable housing for people that don't live in the city, more than not, right? You're usually providing this for the rest of the county. And we're going to use those tax dollars instead of making your quality of life better for you now. I would be so pissed off. You know what I mean? Pave my road.
Yep.
Get me more police.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fix these parks. Don't provide more people. This is what I said at a commission meeting, the other night, that we need to shift the focus for the CRA, right? Which may not even have a future.
I know. I was like, ooh, we're going to get into CRA. Let's go. I want to talk about it. Let's go.
And they may not even have a future, but whether we do or don't is, like, let's shift away from affordable housing. Like, I think we've done our fair share, right? Like, make some other municipalities do it. Let's focus on commercial.
We're not doing it. Leave us alone. We don't have any affordable housing. It's
so
on our.
You guys should do it.
No, we don't want any. They're trying, and nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it because when they think of it, they think of Section 8.
Yep.
Right? It's a buzzword. Section
Well, not
8.
only that, affordable housing is not affordable in Boca. It doesn't matter. There's literally no way you can make it affordable housing actually affordable for and
No,
there's no way.
What it does is it pisses people off because we lived in Uptown Boca. And great community, right? They had workforce housing. When I found out that they had workforce housing in there, while I was paying almost $4,000 a month somebody else in the same apartment that I was, just because they clicked a few boxes, was able to pay half the amount of rent that I was. And I'm like, how is that? Like, and I was like just above like the threshold, like pennies.
It's income. It's
Yeah.
income. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, that's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So they end up charging
But think
more
about it,
on
but
the
think about it,
non-workforce housing
So you
to
could argue
subsidize.
two people, or you could argue someone that's working two jobs. They're working more, right? Because they need to.
Yeah.
But they don't qualify because their income's higher than someone that's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You get
the
penalized.
affordable housing, the workforce housing, and then that's turned into like the biggest thing in Boynton right now is live local, right? We have live local projects. It's killing me. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't understand. Like we're preempted by the state.
Yeah.
And listen, you know, I love that there's a supermajority in Tallahassee, but they're making a lot of bad decisions and they're hurting local government and they're hurting.
they're doing it on purpose.
They're hurting
It's my conspiracy
Yeah,
theory.
it could be. I mean, you know, I mean, it's not that they're doing it on purpose. Is that they have to answer their donors. You know what I mean? And a lot of times
They answer to their donors. They don't answer to the people
yeah.
because
And
they
I
don't
think-
have to. They
And
don't
there's
have.
more disconnect the farther up the chain you go.
That's correct.
That's just how it is.
That's correct.
And so you have live local, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's all in the name of affordable housing. It's all in the name of workforce housing, and people are starting to understand that now. People aren't, you know, they're not getting fooled anymore about this buzzword, right? And so my whole thing is like shifting.
Well, that's what the Democrats have taught us over the years. Like they could say something, but it's definitely not what they mean. So it's like people are starting to get educated of themselves that they see these buzzwords and they're starting to ask questions like, really, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I think, like, it's not that we need more affordable housing. We need housing to be more affordable. That was my whole big thing.
Yeah.
That was my whole big thing. That's what I ran on, you know, and like stopping overdevelopment. And so, like, the CRA, like, it's just, its purpose is to, you know, promote affluence, essentially. You know what I mean? I mean, one could argue, maybe I shouldn't say it like this, but anyways, you want to eliminate dilapidated areas, right? You want to eliminate crime. You want to increase median income in those areas. You know, in theory, it's a great idea, but it gets used and abused, and that's why we're in the position now where Tallahassee is like,
You don't need this anymore.
You don't need this because like the whole Doge thing, you know what I mean, and it's created this ripple effect. Like, I think somewhere out west, somewhere in a municipality, the CRA threw like $1 million parade or event or something. So it's like you took $1 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah, imagine what you could do with $1 million.
You could do a lot.
You could do a lot with $1 million, right?
That's like parks.
Business grants, parks, infrastructure. You could
like
do a lot.
Facelifts.
Yeah, so-
Better, like lots of things.
So you have like these bad actors ruin it for the rest of us. You know what I mean?
That's why we
Like,
can't have nice things, is what my husband said.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
I
right.
may or may not have broke something earlier, and he's like, "This is why we can't have nice things." And I was like, "Oh, shoot, it
Yeah.
was me, not the kids."
Yeah.
Can I blame the kids?
And so it's like, I think, you know, to shift your focus on, hey, leverage this purpose to, you know, promote businesses, focus on infrastructure, and then also, you know, commercial development, right? Increase your commercial tax base is what Boynton needs, and that solves two problems. A, you're gonna accomplish what the CRA is meant to do, but B, you're not gonna bring more people and bring in more dense projects into your city, right? Because the problem we run into right now is that, you know, we've been able to lower our millage rate, but we've had so much growth that, you know, more people, more problems, right? More calls for service. You know, every 3,000 people is like another 10 to 15% burden with police and fire. And so that's got to be paid somehow. But with what you can utilize the CRA dollars for is very limited, right? So you're subsidizing all this growth and development. You're having more people, but now it's costing the city's budget more.
Right.
But you can't offset a lot of that. And so it's created this huge issue that I'm like, we can't, this isn't sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
It's not
Exactly.
sustainable. You know what I mean? So either like you need to redraw the boundaries
Of the CRA?
of the CRA, right?
Who drew those boundaries? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think they hired a consultant, right?
And did they do it for like all the cities? And they're like, okay, here's your CRA, here's
not-
your CRA, here's your
I think
CRA.
the city does it, and then the county provides some ad valorem as well. But what they do is they rob Peter to pay Paul. You know what I mean?
It's still our tax dollars.
Yeah.
As Commissioner Woodward always says, she's like, it's their money. County commissioner's like, oh, well, the state can pay. Well, she's like, it's still the taxpayer dollar money. It's still our money.
Dollar, yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's coming
county. Yeah, it's no different. And she says this a lot too. Is no one cares if it's a city road or a county road. Right? When you're like, oh, well, that's county. You know what I mean? And like, and I've said that, like, hey, I can't do anything because that's county, right? But we can work on it. So then I call Marcy. I'm like, hey,
we have a problem.
Yeah. But when I call Marcy, things get done. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like for 30 years, Seacrest was an issue. Nothing ever got done. We got it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're able to bring those tax dollars back. But I think that's a great point. Like, who cares whether it's coming from?
Nobody
It's
cares.
coming from people's pockets.
Right. It's coming
that
from
are
our except for
hardworking.
when the state is trying to lower sales tax to give us something, when the majority of sales tax comes from tourists. So I don't know how that's going to help us.
I think that's stupid.
It's so stupid.
Lower property taxes.
Lower property taxes, do tax. I think the better solution that the Senate is doing right now is a lot of like removing sales tax on like clothing and things like that. That's stuff that we buy.
Groceries.
Groceries, there's no sales tax on groceries.
Not on food.
Not on food.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's gonna probably smack hard.
If it's on prepared foods, yes. So if you get
Yeah.
like a sub sandwich from Publix, there's tax on it. But if
Right.
you buy the deli
A
meat,
service tax.
there's no
Yeah.
sales tax.
What? I didn't know this. So you're telling me my pub sub is taxed?
Yes.
It's already like $9.99 for a chicken tender sub.
Yes.
I remember when it was $6.99.
I remember that too, but it's still the best deal.
Interesting.
You can get a whole one, and it's like a whole meal. And then
Yep.
it's a cheap date.
Toilet paper, is that?
Toilet paper's taxed.
Taxed. It's
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
paper goods, things
Like,
like that.
Like
do that.
your everyday
Actual-
essentials.
Yes.
But food, consumable food.
But they're getting ready. So the
packaged
state, is not taxed. But the state is saying that they're looking at a lot of areas that they can eliminate sales tax that we buy. So clothing, outdoor equipment, obviously hurricane supplies. We have tax holidays, but they want to just eliminate sales tax on certain areas of items altogether, which I think will be nice. I still think you should look at the property taxes. But here's my question for you. You just said lower property taxes, but you fund your city government through your property taxes. So how do you feel about wearing your like no tax, taxation is theft type hat, but also how do you balance that with we have to have some ad valorem taxes in order to fund the
Dan
government?
needs money to be able to buy things.
Dan and I always butt heads about that.
So how do you what's your thought on it?
My thought is, and I've always said this, is focus on the operational necessities, right? And this is the example I give. If you get up and perfect example, right? We had a big argument about like public art and like that being subsidized, and then how it's such a large economic impact, blah 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 blah. Everyone's got their opinions. I don't think art is an operational necessity. Okay, if you get up and you need to go to work in the morning, right? You get up, you hop in your vehicle, and you drive to work. Are you going to be able to get there if there's a pothole in the road or the road's broken?
Right.
Right? You're going to have to reroute. Maybe you don't get to work, and you can't.
Or maybe it busts your tire or hits
Right.
the indicator,
There's an issue.
Yeah.
Right? That I would say it's a necessity to be able to get to work.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? For your quality of life. Now, if there's a big
Fish.
statue, right? Like there's a big statue or big piece of art, that's on the side of the road. If it's there, if it's not there, can you get to work?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like little, and that's, and I think, and like I don't know if social is the right word, but like I feel like that's a feel good buzzword. You know what I mean? It's not a real operational necessity.
It's not an operational necessity.
It's
Now,
not.
art is necessary in life in order to have for quality of life, but it's not an operational
Right.
necessity. That's correct.
It's a want, not a need.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think the biggest thing in government is to eliminate wants.
And focus on needs.
Yes.
Okay. So if you eliminate property taxes,
I'm not talking about eliminating property taxes. That's not what I said. I
You're
said
saying
lower,
lower the property
I said lower it.
lower it. Okay.
Because here's the thing. So, like, there's that whole discussion with Governor DeSantis wanted to eliminate it, and it's like, all right, so who's going to pay for the police and fire?
Well, that's the
you know what I
brings us to
mean?
the
Well,
question.
now you're going to do an income tax, and it's like, okay, so then what about the people who rent?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was a big argument. I think a lot of it's just buzzwords and, hey, look at me. Look at me. You know what I mean? I don't think
100%.
it's realistic.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this before. I know some of our other listeners have probably heard me say this ad nauseum, but in my opinion, there are two types of politicians. There are politicians who are running to get reelected for their next thing, and they govern. I'm sorry, not two types. There's two types of governance. There's governance where they're running for their soundbite and they're running for their next position, and then there's governance that's governing and
That's
actually effective and wants to lead the people and wants to not lead, serve, really more than lead, serve the people. And unfortunately, we have a huge majority of the first and very few of the latter. And so a lot of what we see, a lot of the bills that are brought forward, a lot of the stuff that we see in Tallahassee, a lot of stuff that sometimes even at county commission, even at the city level in some of the cities that we see people who are like, they're thinking ahead. I mean, we see this with Andy Thompson. Let's say he's someone who's proven that he has higher designs in government. And so begs the question, is he governing from a place of how will this look on my future resume versus how is this going to serve my people?
And that's why you lose.
And that's why, hopefully.
A lot of times you lose. I'm not saying to him.
No,
I'm
just saying they I
not
wish
directly
more, not
throwing
enough.
shade.
Not
I'm just
enough.
saying a lot of times people forget that,
Yes.
right? And they, like, for example, our previous mayor, you could tell that's what he was. He was so focused on the donors, so focused on his what was next that, I mean, he was unpopular. I mean, a lot of people.
He got reelected, right? But
he went from commissioner to mayor, but then he doubled down on my opponent. Did a lot of stuff and thinking it was going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that obviously didn't, right? Because people were able to see the difference between someone who actually cares and is involved and is around and actually works, right? Like, everyone says it's a part-time job. It's not a part-time job. It's full-time. You know what I mean? Because you got to field concerns. You got to be around. You got to, like, talk to your people to understand what the good solutions are. You know what I mean? Because staff is going to give you one. You know what I mean? The people are going to say, hey, we want this, and then you're going to go by your own moral compass too, and you have to find a way to juggle and balance all three of those.
Because you're an elected representative, but you also have your own moral compass.
You know what I mean? And so you're like, God. And then obviously your constituents, you're not going to have the same ideology throughout every single neighborhood or every single individual or demographic. You know what I mean? So you have to really hone in on, like, all right, what is like the win-win here? You know what I mean? And it's a tough thing to do, but I think a lot of times when you build, this is like something I learned in like the private sector, right? When you build trust with your client base, right, your customers or your taxpayers, whatever you want to say, trust gives you forgiveness. And so when you're able to be like, hey, we messed up or whatever, people are like, no, you're human. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna make mistakes.
Trust gives you forgiveness.
Trust gives
That's
you
really
forgiveness.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, but it's
down.
the truth. You know what I mean? Because you've done everything. You've responded. You've proposed this. You kept your word on X, Y, and Z 9 out of 10 times. I'm not going to fault you for that one time. You know what I mean? But if you mess up, 9 times and then the one, people are like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? So I think when you really work hard, people sense that. People see that.
They see that. Yeah.
They see that, and
that's what I think is really great about Boynton in general, because I think the people of Boynton are so committed to their community that it's
a little bit too much sometimes.
You're right there. You're right.
I will tell you what, if you ever really just want to have fun, go to a Boynton
6
City
p.m.
Commission.
first and third Tuesdays of the
yes.
month.
Or if I had a blast at the candidate forum. I was like, man, I need popcorn for this room. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I went door knocking in there one time for when I was working in Bill's campaign.
Yeah.
And I knock on this guy's door and he answers the door. He's wearing no shirt.
Love it.
And he's just like, and I start telling him, I'll give him my thing. And he just starts telling me some of the craziest stories. And he's like, and then this happened. And then I had blah, and I couldn't leave my house for a year and blah, blah. He's telling me all this story. And I was like,
oh, was this in my neighborhood?
yeah.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I figured you would. And I was just like standing there going, is this a true story? Like, what's happening right now? I was like, okay, wow. Oh, so like, I was just like, Boynton is whack, man. I love it here.
Yeah, it's
great.
There's something in the water, I think. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe it's the fluoride. Who knows?
You guys need to get your fluoride out.
Well, we're waiting to see what the state does.
Okay.
Because I think it might be mandated either way.
Yes. Well, I know that Lori Berman, I was going to actually bring that up. I know that Lori Berman tried to put an amendment in order to allow municipalities to make their own decisions, and the state was like, no.
Yeah.
So it's the one time I'm going to support that.
Yeah,
I'm big on anti-fluoride.
Lori's not the bad.
No, but I
Yeah.
just was like, no, I think you need to ban this altogether.
Yeah,
Like, there's no
yeah.
reason to put like this type of chemical in our water
Yeah.
supply. But
I mean, he's been there for how long?
long enough to make everyone dumb.
Right.
Just saying. I don't know. I didn't drink fluoridated
And
water.
like-
My
and-
mom wouldn't let us have fluoride when I was a kid. We didn't drink fluoride. We didn't drink tap water. We didn't use fluoride in our toothpaste. They wouldn't let us use fluoride at the dentist.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. Take that for your case study.
That's Commissioner Woodrow. That's like his big thing right now.
Is getting rid of it?
He's getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
And we're opposite sides on the yeah. It's like
That's
Really? I need to put
Yeah.
him in touch with someone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like not. Yeah, he's not a fan.
I've heard the set doesn't want it.
Yeah.
People in the set don't want it. I heard that. Do you think that, so like I one of the things I really love about Boynton is that fact that it's districted.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that makes a difference in people's connections to their commissioner? Because Boca's not districted, it's an at-large. And I think Delray's not districted either, it's at-large.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that adds to making a difference in how much people are involved at what's happening in the city?
Yeah, I do. I think I think every municipality should be districted. I think it establishes some form of organization and like obviously like every district's going to have different issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're going to have better representation because people are going to like, hey, I'm fighting for my district.
Mm-hmm.
You know
This is
what I
my
mean?